What do you think makes us who we are? Is it our experiences? Or does our genetically predisposed personality dictate our feelings, thoughts, and actions more? The nature versus nurture debate is probably the longest standing debate in the field of psychology. And it is our goal to try and understand that debate more, not necessarily to answer that question. Because both our environment and our DNA is going to play an influence in who we are. The question that we try to answer is which one plays a bigger influence. When examining heredity versus environmental influences on behavior and mental processes, it's important to define what exactly heredity is. And heredity is defined as the mental and physical characteristics that are genetically passed on from one generation to the other. It is the nature side of nature versus nurture. Nature refers to all of the genetic inheritance or genetic influence that we see on behavior and traits, the biological factors that make us who we are. Nurture, on the other hand, is focusing on the environmental factors. So our upbringing, our experiences, our culture, our education, everything that comes from the outside world that has an influence on our behavior and mental processes. And we know that both play a role in human development. We have genetic predispositions that cause specific traits to be present as a direct result of certain genes. And those traits can be passed on from generation to generation. The study of evolutionary psychology dives into this even more by taking a look at what behaviors and what traits that we have that seem to be adaptive, the ones that help us to survive, and so over time they continue to be passed on from one person to the next. Those traits that are adaptive, those traits that are passed on through a process known as natural selection. And it might explain why we see some similarities in people. If these traits are adaptive, we would see them occur in a great deal number of people. Unfortunately, throughout history, the conversation around specific traits that are adaptive and seeing them passed on from one generation to the next has led to an unfortunate field known as eugenics, which pushes this idea that if there are specific traits, such as intelligence, that we see as desirable, then we should be encouraging those individuals to continue procreating and passing on those genes and preventing others from being able to do the same. It has deeply racist and ethnocentric roots that come from eugenics, and attempts to utilize eugenics has often come from a very unethical place. So instead, in psychology, we focus our efforts on nature versus nurture and trying to find ways that we can study the influence of both nature and nurture on human development. And how do we go about doing that? If we want to really find out which has a bigger influence, what we would probably need is similar or the same DNA and people who are experiencing wildly different environments. Because if genetically you are the same and environmentally you are different, we can look at your behaviors and mental processes and see, are you more alike or are you more different? If you're more alike, despite being raised in different environments, we might see a strong genetic component. But if you are in fact very different in different environments, well then we know that the environment is playing a bigger role. So one of the most common ways psychology has tried to answer the nature versus nurture debate is through twin studies. Identical twins, or monozygotic twins, are the only individuals who have the exact same DNA. So if their DNA is identical, that opens up an opportunity to see where are the similarities and where are the differences. Very specifically, if we're looking at them being raised in separate households, we are looking at twins who are often separated at birth. We can compare them to twins who are raised in the same environment, both monozygotic and dizygotic or fraternal twins, regular siblings, other family members, even people who live together who are not related. In all of these different examples, we can see the similarities and differences and try to figure out whether it's the environment or the genetics that is playing a bigger role in their development. And that's really where our journey is going to begin. As we dive into neuroscience and the biological basis of psychology, we're going to take a look first at all of these internal factors that make us who we are. It's amazing to me that the parts of the brain can be in basically the same areas in all of our heads, but it's the thing that makes us so different. We think differently, we feel differently, we experience the world differently, and we act differently as a result. It's a really great example of nature versus nurture at work in each of our lives. So let's dive into this biology that makes us who we are. For now, thanks for watching, and as always, remember, be kind to your mind.